Hi, everyone. Welcome. Look who I have. Am I in the wrong way? I'm always doing the wrong way. Hey, we've got Harold Ross in the house. Woo. And I have to do a shout out to his wife, Vera, because she is so amazing. She got this worked out because Harold is so busy. Tomorrow he's got a workshop and he had to do all this stuff. And thank you so much for coming, Harold. And yes, thanks to your wife. I totally appreciate you guys. We are here to talk about Harold Ross. This is the Macro Live Chat Show, which talks about close up photography, macro photography, and micro photography. So before we dive in to pick Harold's brain, we're going to go ahead and do a real quick sponsor video. Today's Macro Photography Live Chat Show is brought to you by Adventurers of the F-Stop, a $29 monthly membership to elevate your macro and landscape photography and business skills. Just go to membership.sullivanjphotography.com and check out all the details to push your creations in 2018. Okay, we're back. Welcome, everyone. Welcome for being. Oh, and Catherine's here. Thank you, Catherine. Catherine is the one that has this amazing images in our critique section. So thank you, Catherine, for that. I do have to say a couple things before we really dive in. Harold is the king of light painting, and I have shared his website to everyone. So you guys all should know the beautiful work that is produced by Harold Ross. So if you haven't, AD has went ahead and put his website down underneath him, so you could check that out right now. You need to, because we are going to talk about, there's so much to really dive into that I got to make this an hour. He has a workshop, so we will be rolling really quick. But before his publications is amazing. I can't go through everything, but Luminous Landscape, the Royal Photographic Society, Take and Talk Pics, Lens Scratch. Is that how you say it? Lens Scratch? Yes.
Yeah.
A digital photographer. And then I'm going to stop at Lens Work. But I'm telling you, this is like this much to compare to this much of all the publications that he has. But Lens Work, we're going to actually see, and he'll talk about that later in the show. So we are ready to talk about his work, and I want to really get into it. And I'm going to make sure, because this is one of the things that I have to, when it comes to all of this technical stuff, we had a little bit of glitches, but we got everything going. So I'm really happy about that. Right now, all I have to do is really ask you, because of all of the goodies that I have here of where you've been. I mean, it's just amazing to me, and very, the work is just gorgeous. How did you get into photography? I mean, the very beginning of photography, to get where you're at now. I'd love to hear that story.
Do you have an hour or two?
Seriously.
Well, like so many photographers, I was influenced by a parent. And for me, it was my dad. And I remember as a kid going into the darkroom with him and watching prints, pictures of our family, pictures of my mom coming up in the developer, and it was like magic. So I was hooked. And then, of course, when I was a little bit older, I bought my first little Instamatic camera, GAF. I still have it. And then I, like so many people, did yearbook photographs for high school. And so I just decided photography was going to be what I did. So I went to school. I went to art school in Baltimore, Maryland Institute, College of Art. And after that, I taught photography for a few years. And then I decided I'd like to be a commercial photographer. So I opened a studio, and I did work for advertising for 30 years. So most of which was light painting.
Oh, wow. So you started that a long time ago then.
Yeah. I've been light painting for almost 30 years now, about 27. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's all I do.
Well, how do you got into, I mean, light painting, was it just something, I mean, I went to college also, and the professor had us do light painting. But I mean, with you, is that how you started to do light painting, or it just came to you? How did you get into the light painting scene?
Well, I actually was working in my studio, and I would come up against these little lighting issues that I couldn't solve with strobe or softboxes or mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up a little flashlight and started light painting. Of course, I had to put a gel on it to balance it to the daylight emulsion of the film, and for for advertising, you're shooting film, transparency film. So there was no correction, there was no Photoshop, of course. So everything had to match color-wise, and so I would light paint little small areas of an image to solve a problem. But immediately when I looked at the Polaroid, we used to pull the Polaroid.
Yep, I remember.
I could see that light painted area of the image was the most beautiful part of the picture. And so right away, I decided that I would start just light painting everything. And
Right.
There was a great photographer back then who inspired me a lot, a guy named Aaron Jones, who was just a phenomenal commercial photographer. He inspired me as well.
Yeah, that makes a big difference too, where it keeps you going for sure. Yeah, well, I bet you, I mean, is he still alive at this moment? Does he know that you were inspired by
Oh
him?
yeah, we've actually been in touch, which is really cool. Yeah.
That's the best. That's the best. Coco, okay, this is live, and my dog might bark right now. Coco. Yeah, no, that's a really, who I loved Harold Edgerton. And obviously he was not alive but I've always wanted to go to MIT. So that's why I was curious if you got to meet, if you got to meet the person that you admire, because that's a big thing. Okay, I'm sorry. This is live. Sorry, people.
We actually met back in the 80s.
Now, I just want to let everyone know, hold on. People know me. They know Coco. So when I have videos and stuff, my dog is always with me. And that's why, but my daughter just came in, so she was running a little late. But anyways, we'll get back to you, Harold. I'm so sorry this happened.
Oh, no, not a problem. I had met Aaron Jones back in the 80s, and I was really happy that he contacted me a few years ago, and we've kept up a little bit of a communication. So.
Oh, no, that's great. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's, you've got history too with your parents, and that, that's pretty good. And I love hearing, truthfully, when you talk about, the slides and getting the color corrected, and, that it brings back memories, because, you don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And that was fun. It was hard, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah.
All right. So what we'll do is right now, let me make sure I get this all good, and I'm going to go ahead and because everybody knows AD's in the background, and I'm going to make sure that I share the screen. But hold on 1 second, AD, share screen. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to go over here, share screen, and there we go. So now everyone's seen your beautiful website, and this is where I really do I want to pick your brain. I know it's not a good thing to say to people, but I like to say it because I really do. When I see your work, I'd love to know about your thought process. Is it a vision that you have before, or is it something you just lay out and then you decide to actually light paint? Or I'm just kind of curious about your thought process while you're actually photographing, not the post-processing yet, but unless that's part of it,
Well, for me, of course, the question, should I light paint it, is always a yes, because that's really all I do. But it always, for me, starts with the subject. I photograph subjects that I'm interested in really taking a look at. And what I mean by that is by lighting in a way that reveals everything about that subject, at least the parts that interest me. I feel that I can hopefully get the viewer of my images to see something about that subject that they just wouldn't normally see under normal kinds of lighting.
For sure.
And I'm kind of drawn to things that have been discarded or discounted, things that are sort of past their prime a little bit. And in a way, I hope to, in a sense, give those things a new life in a way.
Yeah, I think you do. I mean, it's definitely, you could feel it. Feel the depth of what right now we're seeing the 3 leaves that you placed. And wow, I mean, I love dead leaves because they have a different life after the fact. Yeah. But the way you've painted it is so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, they are so beautiful. And I think what's amazing to me about the light painting process is that it's so transformative that, normally we wouldn't take a second look at a dead leaf, or maybe we would if we're a photographer, but most people wouldn't, they wouldn't normally look at it. And I just hope to show aspects of that subject that, we wouldn't normally take a look at.
Yeah, no, it's great. So so then now that I'm looking at all this stuff right here and everyone else, so when you post-process, I mean, look at how beautiful your orange is. I mean, you've made it so elegant, and it's just, it's an orange that we have every single day in our lives, and so how do you do this post? We're going to share later your blog, which is really cool. Everybody's going to get some great information on your blog, but this is really just diving into your work. And do you layer or stack, or how do you go into post with these beautiful images of yours?
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, back in the old days, I'm using air quotes, nobody can see me, but back in the old days,
I could see you.
When I shot on film, we would have to make everything perfect on that sheet of film for the client if it were a commercial job. But now with digital, we can, of course, stack many, many different captures together. So I take advantage of that fact. So my images are really compilations of lots of different captures. With something like a flower, of course, we can't do as many captures because the flower is always kind of moving, so everything has to register and not move between captures. So, but with a lot of my other images, there may be, from anywhere from 5 to 40 captures that then get easily blended together in Photoshop.
Oh, so you layer them in basically and use your mask and all that fun stuff?
Right. Yeah, they're layered together, and just by using masking, and I use masking in kind of the reverse way from the way most people use masking. Instead of using masking to get rid of things that I don't want in a layer, I use masking to just bring in the things that I want. So I just bring in the beautiful things and I leave out anything that isn't, beautiful.
Right. Wow. Yeah. And all of this is just, wow. I keep saying that, but it's true. No BSing from Janice. This is actually really, really beautiful work. This is gorgeous. Here, is this one complete shell, or did you put a shell into something? See, this is great too. I love the texture here.
Yeah, that's a shell laying on top of a cutter. It's a mechanical cutter that was used for cutting steel, actually. So that's a piece of steel that the shell is laying on top of.
Do you have to do a lot of cloning and getting rid of a lot of, when you get close and stuff, your teapots are pretty too?
Yeah. Not at all, Janice. No, there's no my workflow is extremely simple. It's just compose and light, and then put the layers together in Photoshop. So.
Oh, okay.
There's there's no cloning. There's no, I mean, occasionally, I might have like a little piece of dust or something that I have to get rid of, but everything is as it was on the set.
See, that's interesting. That's great to know. You've taken the time to structure it and get it all organized, and then you start painting. Look at that. That's beautiful too. I mean, your light is, we're going to talk in the equipment section, everyone. You're going to be able to see some of the tools that Harold uses. But wow, it just looks so elegant. It's so soft.
This is a teapot that belonged to my mother. So it's really a special image for me. And I do shoot a lot of personal objects like this. I feel that objects can kind of carry the spirit of the people that own them or use them. And one of my goals is to try to kind of reveal that through my images if I can. That's a goal of mine. I'm not sure if I achieve it, but that's kind of what I'm after.
Well, it's something. I'm glad that you say that, because people are watching, and if you want to get into something like this and it's personal to you, I think that you really you'll take more time and really focus to make it beautiful, because it's a great moment or memory that you have. So instead of just, if you want to get into really like how Harold's really making this elegant, bring some stuff in that really are special to you. Who knows? Maybe walnut's your favorite nut. I mean, and start photographing and doing light painting for, take Harold's class, and bring some good stuff. Yeah, look at this too. This is great. I love old historical things, and that's how actually I met AD, because he does a lot of abandoned scape stuff, and
great.
So I love stuff like this. Anything that has history. My husband and I, we go hiking, so something like this is definitely, you could tell this is really cool. Is this something that your families, or you just fell in love with and wanted to photograph?
Yeah, it's a combination. I think my mother owned that brush. The scissors, I'm not sure where they came from, and I'm not sure where the razor came from. But no, in this case, really, they aren't all personal.
Right.
But there's another. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just said it's a great composition. I mean, just the way you're, laying it out.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then I noticed that I'm sorry, I keep bugging you. I keep poking you. This is, my mind goes, but I noticed you have a lot of textures in behind. Well, this is kind of soft, but is this the background already set up, and like this is maybe a piece of fabric or something, or I'm just curious on your.
Yes, usually the background is always there's a background in the shot, and I like the background, and I bring in the background. But sometimes I'll do a texture overlay over just the background. So
okay.
That happens occasionally. And with this technique that I use, one in a way doesn't even need to have a background because you can create it with a texture. And I do it in such a way that the background is completely independently controllable from the foreground. And it doesn't require any masking out, any, what am I saying, selections.
Oh, okay.
No pen tool work, none of that. It's just done through a special technique.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
And that's true on some images,
I like it, though. It brings in, it's your subject work is very elegant, and then you have that texture, which is a little rough. So it's great. I think it's just really brings out your main subjects, I feel. Really.
The lighting, when we light paint, we can use a small light source, and that light source can bring out so much more texture and detail than a large light source. And light painting is really the only method where you can use a small light source and you can make it look as beautiful as a large, soft light source. So it's kind of a real interesting dichotomy there.
Right. Wow. And you've got it all in focus, and it just looks great. Okay. Was there anything that you would like to express when it comes to your thought process or post-processing before we dive into critique time?
Let's see, post-processing. Well, just that when I am putting together an image and I'm masking objects into the image, I'm constantly thinking about their shape. What is their natural shape? And how can I sort of enhance that shape? And that's really what I think about when I'm doing my post-production.
That's a real good tip. And that's how you get this shape is by using the light, the lights and your shadows and all that to create the depth that you're creating. And I think that's why I feel like I could touch it. I just want to touch it. Oh, that's a good point. So yes, pay attention to I'm getting, I was actually playing a little bit before. You probably saw me. I went to your Instagram account and everything. I just get in, deep thought when you can look at one image for a while. It's not like it's something to just go and, I know everybody nowadays just kind of flips through, but these are not made for that, people. These are made for you to take your time and really pay attention to everything because every little detail is great.
I'm so happy to hear you say that because that's one reason that I don't have thumbnails on my website. There's something about, for me, seeing, 50 images and then picking one to look at that I'd rather not do. I'd rather, in a way, I know this sounds a little strange, but I kind of want to force people who are looking at my website to approach each image with a little bit of time. Almost like it would be in a book where you turn a page and there's an image. So we don't really have thumbnails in a book usually.
Yeah, I like that. I think it works. It is making me take some time, but I'm a photographer too. You know what I mean? But I think other people, could just want to scan through. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And no, we don't want to do that here for sure. Yeah, that's good. That's a great thing for people to pay attention on your website. If you want to make people stay on an image, you just heard it from Harold.
I could be completely wrong. It has happened.
I don't think so. I don't think you're wrong.
As my wife Vera reminds me, it can happen that I'm wrong sometimes.
Well, I'm sure Vera will say, yes, you are.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. All right, let me get out of screen share real quick and I just got to push these buttons and okay, stop screen share and I did it. Yay. I'll tell you, sometimes I just do not. One time when me and AD were doing this and I did a screen. I was supposed to go back to a certain screen, and I shared the screen with him in the background. He just started waving. I am not technical stuff is not my forte. All right. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna go into critique, but hold on one second because I want to make sure. So Catherine is here. Catherine, I know you can hear me, and I've given her. She has a special link. So if she has questions, I don't lose it. Because, when I'm on the show, just me, then I can really chat with the people that are, in the chat rooms and all the different places that we're at. But when I have a guest, it's really about you guys and I don't pay attention as much. So I apologize, everyone. But we only have an hour and I got to get rolling here. But Catherine, if you have questions, I just want to let you know that you can ask in the crowdcast, okay? So what I'm going to do is make sure that I get Lightroom up so we can get her image. And let me just get that going. I just want to make sure I'm not screwing up. Last time I had a hard time with it. So what we'll do, Harold, is I'll do another screen share. We'll be off so they can see her work. Right now is your work, but we'll pop over and I'm going to screen share now, AD. And it went to an opener.
That's beautiful.
Oh no, it's critique time. See, AD's got it right, man. I'm the one that's got it wrong. Okay, here is her image. So I messed up and he got it all right. I was the critique. We have a little, I want to make these into actual podcasts. So I have like just a little opener for each segment. So he did his critique time. But right here in front of you is everyone. This is Catherine's, and I got to find what she says because I always like to read everybody to let everybody know her goals. So her goal was to put together a pleasing composition of the tomatoes, lettuce, and pepper. She goes, I also wanted to make these lovely colors really stand out. She says she is disappointed with the purple tomato. So Catherine, thank you so much, and I'm really happy that you've submitted this. This is perfect for Harold to dive into and give you some suggestions. I've offered a couple things, but I figure, you go for it, Harold. You just tell her what you think that could help her out, getting those beautiful colors to pop and all that fun stuff.
Okay. Well, Catherine, first of all, thanks for sending this in. And it takes a lot of courage to have your work publicly, looked at. And I hate to use the word criticism, but I mean it in a positive way. So kudos to you for doing that. First of all, I think the composition, and I'm going to temporarily for a minute ignore that purple tomato back there. And Catherine even said she's disappointed in that. But let's ignore that if we can just for a minute. I think the composition's just fine with the three, the heirloom tomato, the pepper, and the yellow tomato. It's a nice balance. It is rather a little bit symmetrical, but the size of the heirloom tomato compared to the yellow tomato, there's enough of a discrepancy there that I think it's balanced and it works. One thing that I see that I like a lot is the overlap that she used. Instead of having those objects just touching each other, which you often see, and I consider that kind of a problem. In this case, Catherine overlapped everything nicely, and that really creates a sense of depth. We know for a fact that yellow pepper is behind the heirloom tomato because it's overlapped and back there. So a good job on the composition. Now let's talk about that purple tomato. I don't know if you shot this using any tethering software or whether your camera was on a tripod, but one thing that happens when we put our camera on a tripod, we begin to slow down a little bit and we really start looking at the image a little more intently. And then that gets magnified if you shoot tethered. In other words, when we look at that screen, that big computer monitor screen, and we're looking at the image, we really can critically look at things. If we're shooting handheld, we tend to not pay as much attention. And so if that purple tomato were bothersome to you when you were looking at this on the back of the camera or a computer monitor, I would suggest take it out. If it bothers you, take it out. And certainly it is a troublesome element because it's so dark. And if it weren't dark, it would probably also mean that the composition would have to be a little different because the left edge of that purple tomato is a little bit too close to the edge of the frame. So if you were able to light the purple tomato, I would have opened up the frame a little bit more just to give it a little bit of breathing space over there. One thing that I teach my students is that if you have an element in an image and you can't read it, in other words, you can't recognize what it is, it probably needs to come out. Because the last thing you want to do is really confuse the people that are looking at your image. You don't want them to have to wonder what that is. In terms of color, I think the color is great, but there may be some things that you could play with, maybe some other methods of working with the color a little bit. One great thing about light painting is that color is automatically intensified because we're using a small light source, and small light sources reveal much more color than do big soft light sources. So that's one thing I love about light painting is that I automatically get great color. But There may be a couple of things you could do with maybe lab color or possibly channel swapping or something to get just a little bit more, let's say, depth to those colors. But I think it's a nice image. Great job. And I hope you continue to shoot still life work. It's very rewarding, and you have a good start. Looks great.
Yeah, thanks, Harold. She does. She loves to do. I have a membership program, and she's part of it. And I have a challenge. It's basically your creative challenge, and it's not just for a month. It's for a year basically, and it's to pick soul search on what you want to do, and you don't care about what anybody else says. You don't care about anything. It's what you really love, and she has picked this kind of subject matter, and really has worked hard on, setting it up and playing with her lights and doing all that. So I asked her, I said, can we have this for the show? Cause I knew that you would be able to help her. And she was excited. So she was like, yes, if you don't mind. Of course not. Why would I ask? I mean, of course she's a really go-getter and loves photography and works really hard. So thank you so much for helping her out. That is a great critique. Let me get out. And hold on one second, because I always mess this up and I don't want to mess it up. Let's go over here, and I'm going to stop screen sharing, and it worked. Hello, everyone. Okay, we are back. What I do, let me make sure before I want to see if she has asked any questions, because I was just looking at the image and I wasn't paying attention. Let me see. She's over here in YouTube. So she says, thank you, Harold. I love your comments. Yes.
Oh, great.
Yes. And she did say tripod, yes, tethered, no. So now, Catherine, tether.
I can't explain how much tethering is helpful. We can see every detail. We can check focus. Exposure is much more controllable. Color balance is much more controllable. So it's a great way to work.
Yeah. And I did notice too, we'll share that towards the end in your blog. You give so much information, which I'm going to share to everybody. One of the things that Harold has given people was a color, a video. So on color correction and stuff like that. So you guys can see that in a little bit, because right now we're going to go to the equipment segment. I actually didn't talk in the middle of the little video. I remembered. Well, I have to. I also want to thank people. My husband had some heart failure, and so he was in the hospital, and I had to cancel last show. And I do want to thank all of you guys that have sent me messages, emails, and hoping that Kevin feels better. I totally appreciate all you guys. We've got some prayers and some amazing good vibes out there. So thank you so much. But that it's been a month, Harold, because this show is every other week. And so I had to cancel the last show. And so I'm a little off, to tell you the truth, but it's still, I mean, so far I haven't pushed the wrong button yet. We'll get into.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a shocker. It was a shocker for sure. He's doing better though. He's doing better, so that's good. Now we're going to get into the fun stuff. Equipment doesn't have to be cameras. It's just any tool that photographers use. So we're going to just kind of check out what Harold uses, and I think it's great. It's always fun to see the behind the scenes of what you use, or what your favorite things that you love to use while you're photographing. So feel free to just go for it and share it with us.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm not a big equipment person. Unlike most photographers, a lot of people get attracted to photography because of the equipment. It's just amazing. The cameras, the technology that we have today. And having started in photography in the 70s, the difference is just unbelievable. But I'm still kind of a simpler person in terms of equipment. My camera the main camera that I use for still life work is on the camera stand back there. That's a 25-year-old camera.
Oh,
It has
wow.
a digital back on the back of it, but it's an old Hasselblad.
Oh my
And
gosh, that's so cool.
I don't own a zoom lens. I only have prime lenses. And when I do landscape light painting, I know we didn't really see much of that, but
Yeah.
I use a Cambo technical camera, which I love. It's just very simple. It's just a little, basically a plate that holds a lens and the back. But my most important tools are my lighting tools, but
Yeah.
they're super simple and there are very, very few of them, and they're super inexpensive, which is great. And I believe that knowing how to use a tool is much more important than how much you paid for it. So
It's so true. It really is true. I'm glad you said that, because some people think, well, you probably get all the time. So how you have a nice camera, when they see an image, like, oh, I worked hard for this.
you know the story about the dinner party? Do you know that story where this guy invites his friends over, one of whom is a photographer, and he whips up this amazing meal, and they're having the meal, and he says to his friend, the photographer, "I've seen your work. You must have a really good camera."
Oh.
And he said, "Yeah." And he goes, "This dinner is amazing. You must have a really good stove."
Oh, I need to say that.
Yeah, that's a good one. So anyway, I use very few pieces of lighting equipment, just about 3 or 4. And one of them is, this is the main light that I use. I'm having trouble seeing myself. There we are. I think that's right.
Yeah.
This is a flashlight. It's just an LED flashlight.
Okay.
Here, if I can. Yeah, there we go. LED flashlight. So little tiny light source, it's just an 1/8 of an inch square LED chip inside. But I designed these little plastic diffusers that change that little 1/8 inch light into a 1-inch light source.
Oh, okay. Do you sell those?
I do actually. Yeah, I didn't for a long time, but my students who took my workshops really were just begging me to make them so that they could use the same thing I used, and they weren't able to do it themselves. So I just started making them. So that's the main light. And by softening this light, and it's only softened by virtue of the fact that it bounces through this elbow, it becomes a 1-inch light source. And it's about 50 times larger and 50 times softer than the LED chip, because softness is directly related to the size of the light source.
Right.
And in light painting, I didn't grab a subject here. Let me see. I've got something around. Hold on.
Sure, no problem.
Well,
you get your light source, I get my dog.
Let's see. Well, let's just look at this light switch that I have. So,
okay.
In light painting, if we can get that light really, really close to the subject, it becomes softer, believe it or not. It also becomes brighter, but that's a different issue. The closer the light is to a subject, the softer the light is, because it's effectively larger. And then in light painting, which is what separates it from anything else, we can move the light. So when we move the light, we also make it larger. So this little tiny light source can be made to look quite soft and beautiful.
That's great.
And then in addition to that, I also made and have this wand that I use, which is just a strip light, really. And this is a great light for illuminating anything sort of metallic, maybe. Like I have this little remote switch.
Oh, okay. Okay. That looks good. Yeah, I see.
You're moving it constantly, so it becomes an enormous soft light source. It's also great for providing fill light in a still life light painting.
Oh, okay.
And that just pops right onto the flashlight. So it's just an adapter for the flashlight. Same flashlight.
Now, did you design that too?
Yeah, I did.
You're awesome. And do you sell that too, where we could, I could get the links and maybe people could buy them from you? That would be awesome.
Yeah, I do. I do make these as well. My good friend John Corcoran, who's also a light painter, also helps me with these. And John actually does portraiture with light painting. His name is John Corcoran. So if you're interested in seeing portraiture with light painting, check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the other light source, the other light source that I use is just an LED panel. It's just I don't know, this is about a 5x6.
It's like a mini softbox. It's so cute.
Yeah. But if it's used properly in light painting, because we move it, it becomes a really big softbox. So, right. And I use this mainly behind a diffusion scrim. So we have a big diffusion scrim here. This is a Elastolite 2-stop diffuser. And
that's great.
This is just an amazing way to light metal or glass, something quite reflective. And
I love that.
Yeah, and that's it. In all of my work, those are the only tools I use.
Wow, so. But those are great. I really enjoyed I've never seen anything like that. That's why I was curious. I'm like, I definitely want to grab those links and put them underneath the videos and that I have for the show, because I think people will definitely. I mean, I know I want to check it out. That sounds. Especially the smaller one that you have, the first one, I'm like all over that. That is really very cool, because I like to, do the macro and sometimes even closer. But that would be fun. Yeah. Very, very cool.
If you imagine this light, speaking of macro stuff, if you were lighting something really small and the light is really close like this, it's extremely soft and beautiful. It's a beautiful light.
Yeah. Yes. I'm very excited. This is what I love about photography, guys. This is great. He's given us some really very amazing pieces to play with. I have light painted, like I said, but I've never done anything like what you're doing or anything. That's just something we've just played with. But I just think it's very elegant in a different way to see your subjects, and the depth is just like you were saying. I could tell that your thought process is definitely to get all that depth and to have the feel for it. Plus your composition. I mean, you definitely can tell that you were a commercial photographer. You set it up very nicely.
Well, do we have time to talk about composition for a second?
Sure, of course, yes.
I look at composition a little bit differently than some folks. We have these rules of composition that we talk about, the rule of thirds, the golden ratio, things like that, leading lines, etc. And I think it's great to know those things. I really do. It's a wonderful thing. But I wouldn't myself approach an image with those thoughts in mind too much. They're in the back of my mind. But instead, what I do is I simply try to avoid all compositional flaws. That's how I think about it. So I just look for problems, compositional problems. Things like objects that are just touching. Instead, they should maybe overlap, So this creates tension, this creates depth. Sometimes if you have multiple objects that are stacked on top of each other, that to me is a kind of a flattening thing. Whereas here, we get a lot more feel for what we're looking at instead of that. So, and there are lots of those things, but maybe there might be 10 of them, but I just really avoid those issues as much as I can. And the idea is that if I avoid all compositional flaws, I'll end up with a composition that is at least acceptable. That's how I look at it. So.
Right. And I mean, you mean compositional flaws pretty much like something that is distracting to you? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, avoid distraction. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like
that's a great
just touching the edge of the frame or something, or things like that.
Right. Very good. No, I love, like I say, every little thing that you say is something that we all enjoy, because hello, people. I'm looking over at your stuff over here. Oh, you know what? It's okay, 5:49. I really want to go ahead and we will talk about how you keep yourself motivated. But as you're doing that, because the time is getting, time. I want to make sure that I keep it an hour. I really want to share, and I'm going to get, I want to share your blog, and then we will go to other stuff. But let me go over here, and I'm going to do a screen share, and right now, screen share. So okay, so Harold, they're not seeing you, but I just want to share your blog because there's a lot of good information here. And one of the things that I thought, I'm going to ask you how you keep yourself motivated, but it's interesting to me because when I went to your blog, I checked out this. This is what you just wrote on your blog, and it talks about your motivation and why you took this photograph here that turns out to be this. So but instead of reading, let's just talk to you about it. And then of course I'll just share the image and stuff like that. But yeah, what keeps you motivated to keep going and produce these beautiful pieces?
Well, yeah, it seems after light painting for, 27 years that I would get bored with it, but I'm not. I'm still passionate and excited about what light painting does. For me, the one key word is it's transformative, that we can take what normally would be considered a mundane subject, and through this process of the way we look at it, the way we light it, the way we render it, we can make it into something much greater than we think it is. And that never gets old for me. I think I'll be passionate about that forever. And that's what motivates me is every single photograph that I take is, for me, an exciting journey, a little journey. It's a little one, but it's still exciting for me.
Oh, that's good. And that's what makes the difference. That's what, like you say, it keeps you going. It motivates you. And I'm glad you're motivated because there's some great stuff here. Everybody go to haroldrossfineart.wordpress.com, and he has so much information here. Let me just go to the top. And then, of course, if you wanted me to share something, Harold, just let me know. But I just want you guys to see that if you go down here where it says tutorials, he has tons of information for you guys. So check out his blog. It's just incredible on all the goodies that he has for you. But of course, you want to check out his workshops too. And he has one tomorrow. Now, do you travel like Mike Moats? He travels all over the place. Or do you just basically stay around your location? I was just kind of curious because I haven't really pushed your workshops yet, to see where you're at.
Oh, for workshops? I teach here at my home.
Okay.
Right here. And so people great. Come here to take them. Yeah.
Oh.
One of the reasons I do that is that I have a really extensive collection of things to photograph. And so if I travel to give workshops, I'd have to make other arrangements about subjects, and that's no big deal. I have taught workshops at other places, but usually I just teach them here in Pennsylvania. So.
Oh, gotcha. And then I want to share this too, lens work. You're going to be featured next month, it looks like, right? I mean, that's what you're
right. Lenswork, great publication, everybody. If you're not aware of it, some of you, of course, are, I'm sure, but it's just a great publication. There's no advertising, very, very high quality printing, and the editors are just phenomenal people, and they write just wonderful editorials about photography today. And it's just a great publication. And the next one is going to feature some of the work that I shot at the Biltmore House in North Carolina, in Asheville.
Do you have that on your website?
Yeah,
here?
It's under a portfolio, and you'll see Biltmore House there. Yeah, and I was fortunate. It's right in the middle. There we go.
Oh, gotcha. Let's show people why we talk about it.
I was really fortunate. A friend of mine, Jim Ryan, had a connection at the Biltmore House and asked me if I'd like to go photograph there. And of course I did, So we spent 3 nights shooting there. And it was just amazing to be in this place, to be the only people in this place at night. It was an incredible experience.
Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, usually there's tons of people, looking at everything, and you just got to be there. Yeah. And then post-processing and putting all your pieces together, that must have been great too. I'm sure you experienced that too. I mean, as photographers, when we take our work and we start playing with it, and you're like, wow, you can really get up close to see, especially all these details in here that I'm sure it's, a love of yours to. Each piece has its own special, thing that is part of you, within being in this place.
One of the interesting things about the Biltmore is that some areas are not really lit very well. So a lot of things aren't noticed, which is just amazing. And the other part of it is it's so overwhelming in terms of the amount of stuff there to look at that it's really almost impossible to take it all in. So by photographing these little scenes, little treasures, it really was a special experience.
Yeah. I mean, I love how you lit. Look at back in the days, how they used to be so ornate. It's just beautiful. Oh, wow.
And the scale of things is amazing. Like this chest is about, I'd say it's about 7 or 8 feet in length. It's just huge. And wow. These wall sconces are probably 4 feet in height, at least.
Wow, that's crazy.
Larger than that.
That's so cool. This is so neat. Wow. Yeah, what a great project. So congratulations. I'll be looking out for that in Len's work. This is beautiful too. Let me go out and get off of screen share. Stop screen sharing. There we go. Hello, we're back. So, man, I'm telling you, this is great. And I really do appreciate you taking time. And I've kept it within an hour because I didn't want your wife to get mad at me because you have a busy day tomorrow. She's awesome. I really did enjoy connecting with her. But no, thank you again for coming to the show and sharing all the information about what you do. And I will put all the links down below. And I do want to connect with you too on making sure that we have the light sources that you guys sell and people could purchase that. That would be great to have for others too. And I actually want to buy one myself. So I definitely am going to get that information from you. And thanks for the critique and everything. I just do appreciate you taking time to be on the Macro Show.
Thank you. Thank you, Janice, for asking me. I enjoyed it very much. Thanks.
Oh, I'm glad because when I send the little emails to you guys, I really do pay attention to your work, and I always hope that you guys say yes. And when you say yes, I'm like, yeah. And I'm excited. The next show, I have Sherry Miller, which is my partner in crime. We were both masters in the Arcana with Trey Ratcliffe. And she was actually, I'll just tell you a little behind the scenes. She was my first guest, and I totally blew it. I could not even get her voice to work. It was horrible. It was before I had AD behind the scenes because I don't know what I'm doing. But she's actually going to be on July 19th. So yay, I have her, and I have other people coming on. That's one thing that I love about the photographers like you and the people that have been on you guys have been so gracious to share your knowledge, and I appreciate that for sure. I do want to say real quick, just to everybody out there, that we have July 4th here in America, and I have my family here. And then July 5th, Kevin has an appointment, and I still have some family here. So I'm going to have to cancel this, Harold. So when I go to Sherry, I'm probably going to forget what I did, like I did today when I was talking. So I will have to cancel that show. But all of you guys, you have any questions, and and maybe later on I can, shoot it to Harold or whatever. But I just want to say again, thanks. And I'm glad that you enjoyed chatting about your stuff, and, congratulations for Len's work. And with that, I think we'll say goodbye to everyone. And thanks for joining the Macro Chat live show.
Thank you, Janice. Loved it. See ya.
See ya.